3 spine-chilling true hidden camera nightmares exposed. Terrifying secrets revealed. Sarah had always considered Maplewood a haven, your classic suburban dream. But as she settled into a night shift at the hospital, she had no idea the world outside her window was about to shake her reality. When the first video hit social media like a lightning bolt, she was still in the bustling cafe, caffeine fueling her energy. "They're calling it a nightmare," a coworker said, glancing at Sarah with wide eyes. "I just saw Mr. Thompson standing outside. You won't believe it." The video flashed on her phone, grainy footage showing their friendly neighborhood mailman standing eerily still outside her porch, eyes wide and unblinking, as if entranced by something lurking in the darkness. Panic clawed at Sarah's gut. What was that? She brushed it off as a fluke, or at least she tried to. But as days passed, another video surfaced. This time it was the school counselor, lurking by the playground, his back hunched low like a predator watching its prey. The whispers amongst parents turned sharp, panic spreading like a wildfire, and no longer did summer nights hold the laughter of children. Instead, a chilling atmosphere overtook their picturesque streets. Sarah huddled in the glow of her living room lamp, scrolling through the videos that taunted her with familiar faces now steeped in suspicion. Each click magnified her dread. As the last video played, she felt her blood run cold. There they were, a group of neighbors, laughing too hard, eyes wild, indicative of something rotten underneath the surface they had cloaked in smiles for so long. The world she loved slipped through her fingers like grains of sand. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts, only to find a stack of battered VHS tapes stuffed inside her mailbox. Heart pounding like a drum, she slipped inside and pressed play. The screen flickered with images of gatherings long forgotten. Families celebrating, neighbors smiling, every frame steeped in a sinister undercurrent, revealing how Maplewood had turned its back on light. The weight of the past enveloped her like a suffocating blanket. It became clear there were historic connections tying darkness to her once safe neighborhood, whispers of a pact forged over generations. As she pieced together each tape, Sarah's world warped. Shadows danced outside her windows late at night, laughter now sounding like a taunt in the quiet of her once peaceful home. Fueled by a mother's instinct, she began to watch, really watch, those once beloved faces. Mr. Thompson's late-night rounds shifted from innocuous to inescapably wrong, his grin now a remnant of something predatory. Adrenaline coursed through her. With each corner she rounded, familiar streets morphed into unfamiliar nightmares. Then one ominous evening, she turned to confront a familiar neighbor, stepping into the web of Maplewood's lurking dread. As her voice broke through the tension, she felt the air grow thicker around her. Who lurked in the shadows, and what horrors are they hiding? The figure at the edge of her vision twisted, laughter echoing. Was it to mock, to encourage? Just as her fear reached an apex, dread seized her heart as she turned her gaze to the darkness outside. There it was, an unknown figure, staring in, and in that moment, the laughter melted into an unnerving silence, the summer night growing colder by the second. The figure outside remained still, almost like a statue carved from the night itself. The shadows cloaked its features, but Sarah could feel its gaze boring into her. Heart racing, she stumbled backward, retreating into the harsh yellow light of her living room. "Who are you?" she shouted, but her voice cracked, barely rising above the silence. There was no response, only the weight of unuttered secrets pressing against the walls. As she fumbled for her phone to dial for help, the figure stepped closer, merging with the dark. It moved with an unnatural grace, gliding across the grass towards her front porch. Panic surged through her, cold and viscous. She dropped the phone and grabbed the nearest heavy object, a cookbook. If it came to it, she'd fight. Suddenly, there was a collective rustling outside, as if the entire neighborhood had chosen this moment to exhale. Sarah peered out from behind the curtain. Shadows flitted between street lamps, and she could make out more figures, more than just the one. Her eyes widened as she recognized the faces. Neighbors, people she had waved to in passing, shared smiles with at block parties now gathered, looking lost and disoriented. They stood in clusters, whispering among themselves, faces half-lit by the dim glow of flickering lights. Their movements were jerky, like marionettes whose strings had been tangled. The laughter that once filled their gatherings now twisted into something sinister, a shared understanding that sent chills along her spine. "Sarah," one of them called, a voice she knew all too well, Megan, her friend from 2 doors down. But it wasn't a friendly tone. It was strained, almost pleading. "Help us. What is happening?" Sarah's voice barely carried through the closed window. Questions tumbled in her mind, but panic stifled her thoughts. She turned the lock with shaking fingers, but the erratic tug of the door tightened her throat. What if she let them in? What if they were part of whatever dark force loomed over Maplewood? The figures outside moved in unison, inching closer. She felt the walls of her world closing in, as if the house itself was trying to warn her. The laughter turned unsettling, venomous, then crescendoed into a cacophony of shrill sounds, rising in intensity until it felt as if the very air was vibrating. It was an invitation, or perhaps a command. Just then, her phone buzzed to life on the floor. She dove for it, lifted the screen to her face, and scrolled through messages. It was nearly impossible to focus. The neighborhood watch was buzzing with frantic alerts about disappearances. Fear rose like bile, overwhelming her senses. Then came another knock at the door. Someone was still there, but this time, the voice that followed chilled her to the bone. "You can't hide forever, Sarah." She froze, recognizing it instantly, the low, gravelly tone of the school counselor. That same voice she had heard earlier from the tape, a tone that had once felt safe, now sent shivers down her spine. Panic clawed at her as she realized she was no longer merely a witness. She had become a target. She could choose to stay and fight or flee into the night. Every bone in her body screamed in protest, but somewhere inside her, an ember of fight ignited. What were they hiding? What horrors had woven them all together? Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped back from the door, her mind racing. She had to find out more, had to confront her fears head-on, the dark truth that had turned Maplewood from a sanctuary into a trap. But as she turned again to the window, the figures had vanished, leaving nothing but echoes of laughter in their wake. What had they planned for her, and could she uncover it before it was too late? The silence outside grew thicker, and she knew she was not alone in this nightmare. The stillness gripped Sarah like a vice. Time seemed to stretch, mocking her confusion. She strained to hear anything, footsteps, whispers, anything that might break the eerie silence. Her heart thundered in her ears, drowning out the ghostly echoes of laughter that lingered in the air. The darkness outside felt alive, pulsating with a menacing energy. What had just happened? Were those really her neighbors, or were they puppets strung along by an unseen hand? With every instinct screaming for her to flee, she knew she needed to gather her thoughts. She needed a plan. Trembling, she crept to the kitchen. The glow of the fridge provided both light and comfort. She grabbed a knife, sharp, solid, something to put between her and whatever awaited outside. Her thoughts raced, spinning unwanted possibilities. Were they all in on it? What if there was no escape? Just then, the front door creaked open. Cold air spilled into the house, jarring her from her thoughts. Sarah held the knife tightly, its metallic edge reflecting her anxious expression. She edged towards the sound, every muscle poised for flight or fight. "Hello?" A voice called from the darkness. Not gravelly this time. It was a low and soft tone, familiar but unsettling in this context. "Sarah, it's me, please." Not wanting to breathe, she peered out from the corner of the kitchen. Her heart sank as she recognized Tom, her next-door neighbor. But his face was pale, eyes wide with terror. Confusion stirred inside her, a mix of relief and horror. Why was he out here? The shadows flickered around Tom, and through the open door, Sarah caught sight of something shifting behind him, a figure, ominous and dark, inching forward ever so slightly, obscured by the night. The laughter returned, curling around her like a serpent ready to strike. "Tom, get in here," she hissed, clutching the knife tighter as panic surged through her body. He took a trembling step into the house, relief flooding his features. But it was short-lived. "Sarah, you shouldn't have opened the door." There he choked on his words, glancing nervously at the open doorway. "They're looking for you." "What do you mean?" The urgency in her voice only deepened her dread. Why? What have you seen? Before Tom could respond, the figure loomed closer, its features still hidden within the shadows. You don't understand, he whispered urgently, his eyes darting around. They know about the tape, about what happened last week. She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block out the panic, but the memories flooded in the horrifying afternoon spent listening to the chilling confessions, the faces on the tape revealing their darkest secrets. Tom, you're scaring me. What tape? A cold sweat trickled down her back. There was something he wasn't telling her. He took a deep breath, his voice quaking as he stepped further into the light. The one about the neighbor, the one that disappeared. He hesitated, glancing again towards the shadows gathering outside. That night, they said anyone who learns the truth risks losing their sanity or worse. The door began to creak, as if something was stirring just outside, waiting for its cue. It was no longer laughter. It was rhythmic and pulsating. Each knock rattled her bones as dread settled deep into her core. Sarah felt trapped, both outside and inside. The world had flipped, and she was spinning in orbit, caught between horrifying truths and her darkest fears. Stop, she shouted, more to herself than to Tom, desperately needing to reclaim her ground. I need to know now, Tom. What truth did you hear? But then the shadows shifted again, and the patient silence was broken by a chilling, almost melodic whisper. You want to escape this. Sarah, come outside and join us. You're part of the story now. The figures were back, shadowy hands reaching for her. It was now or never. What did they want? Why were they beckoning her into the night? With each breath becoming harder to take, she knew she had to face what lurked outside, or risk losing everything, including herself. Stealing her resolve, she turned to Tom, who stared. Wide-eyed, fear painted all across his face. Are you ready? She whispered, even as uncertainty twisted in her gut. But just as she stepped forward, a voice echoed from her phone lying on the counter, lit up with a new message. To learn the truth, you must confront the darkness. What did it mean? And at what cost would she get the answers she so desperately needed? Sarah's heart raced as the shadows beyond the door seemed to thrum with anticipation. She glanced at Tom, his face a canvas of dread, and then at her phone, a beacon of unnerving clarity amidst chaos. To learn the truth, you must confront the darkness. What darkness? Her mind was a war zone of questions, but one thing was clear. She couldn't hide anymore. The rhythmic knocking grew louder, a chilling anthem of impending doom. What if I can't handle the truth, Tom? What if I don't know? He interrupted, his voice trembling. But you need to decide. They want you. I can hear them. His eyes darted back to the door, flickering with fear. Who? What are you talking about? Panic bubbled in her throat. Just Tom's eyes widened, and he pointed behind her. They're coming. Sarah whipped around, her grip tightening on the knife. The shadows advanced toward her through the doorframe, shaped by an unseen force. There were whispers, so close she could almost make out their words, slithering through the air like snakes. Join us, join us. Cold sweat trickled down her spine. For a moment, she almost felt like she could step outside and be welcomed, embraced by the dark figures promising to share their secrets. But the knife felt heavier in her hand, her lifeline, not a tool of acceptance. No, she shouted, taking a step back. I want to join you. The shadows faltered for a moment, recoiling as if her defiance stung. But then they surged forward, driven by malevolent intent, and she felt Tom grip her arm, pulling her back. We need to get out of here. Where? She was frozen, torn between the malevolent unknown and the familiar confines of her home that had suddenly become a cage. The basement, Tom urged. It's south, the only place I know we can hide. His voice was frantic, slicing through her fear. Against every instinct screaming for her to flee the house, she nodded, and they hurried to the back, feet pounding against the worn wood floor. As they descended into the basement, the air grew colder, heavier. Tom flicked on the light, illuminating a clutter of old boxes and forgotten memories. But Sarah couldn't focus on the past now. What if they find us? She whispered, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Tom shook his head, looking around nervously. They can't come down here without a reason. We just have to wait. A low rumble echoed from above. The door to the basement trembled as if rattled by unseen forces. The rhythmic knocking changed, morphed. Now it was a chant, almost a song, saturating the air with dread. Sarah pressed a hand to her ear, trying to block it out. I don't think this is safe, she said, glancing at the staircase. heart pounding louder than the noise. But before Tom could answer, shadows spilled down the stairs behind them, a wave of darkness pulsating with life, hungry and alive. She took a step back, her heart in her throat. What do they want? Why are they coming for us? The shadows deepened around the room, twisting inexorably. She could see glimpses of figures, their emotions palpable even through the darkness. Was it anger? Was it fear? It was then she realized they were not just looking for her. They were scared of her. What did you do, Tom? She breathed, feeling the weight of betrayal settle over them like a dust shroud. I didn't mean to. He stammered, his own fear mingling with guilt. I thought if I recorded it I could save us. Save us? She cried, incredulity swelling. You put us in danger. The tape reveals the secrets, he pleaded, eyes darting to the shadows. They don't want anyone else to know. A wave of realization crashed over her. The tape, was it just a collection of confessions, or was it a summons? Was she now part of their web? Just then, one of the shadows lunged, a tendril reaching out toward her, and she gasped, slashing with her knife. The blade met resistance and a screech echoed, freezing her blood. It's too late for that. A voice hissed, sharper than any blade. You've opened the door, and now we are here to collect. Sarah stumbled backward, heart racing, as she stumbled upon an old chest. Desperation fueled her next move. We can't let them take us. We need to figure out how to close this. But with every passing second, the shadows grew more insistent, swirling faster, a storm of darkness closing in. Do you really think knowing the truth will save you? The voice was now everywhere, drowning her thoughts. What truth? She screamed into the void. As the shadows coalesced, enclosing her tighter, the door to the basement creaked ominously. Get ready, she whispered to Tom, feeling the weight of inevitability crash over them. Whatever happens next, we face it together. But another chilling message popped up on her phone, illuminating the dark with words that sent shivers down her spine. You're too late. Sarah, the story has already begun. What was the story, and what fate awaited them? The shadows pulsed, insistent and oppressive, wrapping around Sarah and Tom like a suffocating blanket. Each whisper in the air twisted her stomach further into knots. I can't breathe, she gasped, her fingers tightening around the knife. Panic surged as the coldness enveloped her, snaking into her bones. Tom was trembling beside her, his face a mask of terror. We have to find a way out. There was urgency in his voice, but his eyes were darting around, searching every corner for a clue they could use. Then, the truth hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. The tape, it's in the living room. How could they forget? They had to destroy it. We can't, Tom exclaimed, grabbing her arm. If they get to us first, we'll never get the chance. The longer we stay down here, the more power they gain. The shadows crackled, the whispers morphing into mocking laughter. Join us. Join us. The rhythm settled in her head, making it hard to think. The chest behind her beckoned, an innocent piece of furniture in this horror show. What if it holds something that can help us? Sarah began to push it aside, her heart pounding. Each scrape against the floor made her jump. Are you insane? Tom spat, his voice hushed but frantic. We can't waste time. They're right there. And what if this is a trap? Sarah snapped back, fear sharpening her resolve. Her hands were shaking as she pried the chest open. Dust exploded into the air, creating a thick fog around them. Inside, she found old newspaper clippings, photographs of missing people, and symbols drawn in what looked like blood. Her heart sank. Tom, look at this. She barely managed to whisper. This was no ordinary chest. It was a testament to the horrors that had swept through this house before. Tom stepped closer, dread washing over his features. What the hell does this mean? Just then, the basement door rattled violently. The shadows pressed closer, their whispers turning deafening. You think you can escape? You think yourself different? What if it was all connected? The tape, the shadows, the stories written on faded paper. What if it was all a cycle, and they were doomed to repeat the past? Screaming sounds echoed from the entrance, suddenly punctuated by a sharp crack. A beam of light burst through as the door splintered, revealing a hulking figure cloaked in darkness. You've meddled in what you don't understand. It growled, voice resonating like thunder. Tom pulled Sarah back, eyes wild. We have to go now? But it was like wading through molasses. Every step felt heavy. The shadows were crawling on her skin, pulling her back with an icy grip. The chest. She shouted, heart hammering. We can't leave it. They want it. The figure lunged, and instinctively, Sarah swung her knife wildly, catching it on something hard. A shriek echoed, a piercing sound that made blood run cold. Stay back, she yelled, adrenaline coursing. But with a snap, the tendrils of shadow reached out again, lashing for Tom. Sarah felt 1,000 frigid fingers grip her soul, making her gasp as Tom shoved her aside. Run. No. Tom. It tore a scream from her throat, but before she could grab him, he was enshrouded, swallowed whole by the void. The chest had fallen, spilling papers across the floor. The remaining whispers took on a new tone, almost desperate, pleading. He has the key, he has the key. Fear twisted inside her like a knife. She couldn't do it alone. She had to save him. But how could she fight something so vast, so ancient? She scrambled to the scattered clippings, scanning for anything that could help. The shadows danced closer, pulsing with hunger. Just as despair threatened to consume her, she caught her breath, reading fragments that revealed a shocking truth. Only those who know the past can change their fate. The air crackled with danger. The door to freedom was still ajar, but she couldn't leave without Tom. What do I do? She whispered into the abyss that a voice whispered back with chilling calm. You must choose your loyalty or your survival. As the shadows surged closer, she felt the walls of despair closing in. In that moment, she knew. She had to make a choice. Had the truth already claimed Tom, or was he still there, waiting for her to reach out and pull him back from the depths? And then her phone buzzed, a new message flashing. Time is running out, choose wisely. In the grip of encroaching darkness, the decision loomed like a specter of doom. Did she save Tom and risk being lost forever, or grasp the chance to escape, perhaps leaving him behind? What do I do? She shouted into the abyss, her heart pounding like a drum, as the shadows closed in, and the answer awaited, ominous and foreboding. You must embrace the darkness to find the truth. The whispers grew louder, surrounding Sarah, wrapping around her mind like a sinister melody. It felt like the shadows were alive, hungry for her decision, eager to drag her down into their depths. She could still hear Tom's voice, faint and terrified, echoing in her memory run. The room pulsated with fear. Panic surged, filling her lungs with dread. What choice would she make? Behind her, the chest loomed, filled with secrets and desperation. The truth, the past, the words hung in the air like a noose tightening around her neck. She took a deep breath. I need to understand, she murmured to herself. With shaking fingers, she rifled through the scattered papers on the floor. Each headline seemed to taunt her. Missing, lost, never found. The shadows danced and flickered, closing in like a predator preparing to pounce. But amidst the chaos, a single photograph caught her eye, a smiling girl, eyes bright and full of life, the last one labeled with the date. 5th of October, 1998. Suddenly, clarity hit her, a connection she hadn't made before. This girl could be linked to the tape. Tom, she breathed, desperation clawing at her throat. You're the key. But what do I do? She glanced toward the darkness, where something stirred, hungry and restless. At that moment, the figures in the shadows shifted, a low growl emanated from deep within them. Join us, the voice echoed, sinister and deep, like thunder rolling through the night. Or lose everything. Fear wrapped tightly around her heart as she made her way to the chest, her resolve hardening. She needed to face this horror, whatever it was. The tape had awoken something, and perhaps understanding its origins was the only means of saving herself and Tom. Pulling out a newspaper clipping, she froze. The article detailed a series of bizarre occurrences that began after the tape's creation, a rash of missing children, all connected by that same date. She remembered her phone buzzing. Could it be that simple? Discover the origin, unravel the curse? Her heart raced at the thought, but time was running out. The shadows pressed against her, their icy tendrils slithering closer. Embrace the darkness, they were taunting her, their voices dripping with malice. She could feel their chill gnawing at her resolve. Stop, she shouted, her voice echoing in the void. You think I'm scared of you? Suddenly, the shadows pulled back, as if struck by her defiance. For a moment, she thought she saw a flicker of something, fear, perhaps, but it vanished just as quickly, leaving only the pervasive darkness. Realizing she had only moments left, Sarah dove back into the chest, frantically searching for more clues. Her hands brushed against something smooth, another photograph. Flipping it over, a name was scrawled across the back, Megan. Her mind raced. Could this be a connection to Tom? Was he still there, trapped, caught in the same web? A chill ran down her spine as the realization sunk in. She had to confront whatever haunted this place, the girl, the tape, the looming shadows. Tom, she cried, her voice high and desperate. I'll find you. I promise. But the shadows pulsed. The whispers resumed their mocking. You think she'll save you? They sneered, hissing curses. The darkness will claim you both. The basement seemed to shift, walls closing in, the chest vibrating as if something else stirred within. She could feel a rhythm building, the electricity of danger crackling in the air. The decision weighed heavily. She had to dive deeper into the past, into the horrors the house held. Staring into the abyss, she made her choice. I won't abandon you, Tom. I'll face whatever this is. With determination stealing her nerves, she clutched the photograph of Megan tightly, whispering a silent prayer to the vacant air. Bounding toward the door, she found her escape blocked. A wall of shadows loomed large, a dark sentry refusing passage. To leave is to summon your fears, a voice hissed, its breath icy and pungent. Then let us face them together. She lifted her knife, trembling but defiant, ready to confront the hidden truth. The shadows surged toward her. In a cacophony of chaos and energy, she braced herself for the unveiling of truths that could shatter her world, a truth hidden within the darkness, waiting to emerge. Would she uncover the connection to Tom, or would she fall victim to the very darkness she sought to fight? The shadows coiled tighter, whispering a chilling proposition. To find him, you must become one of us. The shadows twitched, dark and writhing, pulling closer until they enveloped Sarah completely. Her heart raced, pounding against her chest like a wild drum, each thud echoing in the suffocating silence. She stood, knife trembling in her grip, the photograph of Megan burning like a torch in her mind. What do you want? She screamed, the defiance in her voice slicing through the oppressive darkness. Your essence, your fear, your soul. The shadows hissed in unison, voices overlapping like a twisted choir. Join us willingly, or become our vessel. Panic surged within Sarah. She glanced at the knife in her hand. No, you won't take me. She charged forward, lunging at the shadows, but they didn't retreat. Instead, they surged toward her, a mass of tendrils swirling ominously. The knife sliced through them, but they only shifted and flowed around the blade, as though mocking her. You cannot fight the inevitable, they taunted, swirling like smoke, intangible yet suffocating. A cold tendril snaked around her wrist, chilling her to the bone. She gasped, the sensation jarring her resolve. You must embrace the shadows to save him. Only then will the truth be revealed. Tom, she shouted, desperation clawing at her gut. I will not surrender. The darkness surged, filling her lungs with an icy grasp. Each breath became harder, every heartbeat a reminder of the chilling reality that engulfed her. She could feel the whispers scraping against her sanity, memories of laughter from children and flickers of light from the past merging into a blur of torment. They were pulling her in, one whisper at a time, threatening to drown her voice. In that moment of sheer terror, the photograph in her hand burned hotter. Megan, the name reverberated in her mind, a light shimmering through the obsidian gloom. She focused on the girl's radiant smile, her innocent eyes, refusing to let the darkness devour her spirit. You were taken. I need to find you. The shadows slithered back slightly, intrigued. Your heart is stronger than we anticipated. But know this, Sarah, discovering the truth is a double-edged sword. It could save, or it could condemn. Sarah's fingers brushed across the chest, feeling its rough wood against her skin. Heart pounding, she made a decision. Whatever the truth was, she had to confront it. She needed to unlock the mystery of the past to save not just Tom, but the children whose names were etched in the whispers of this house. With a deep breath, she shouted, "Show me." The walls around her began to reshape, twisting and contorting as visions flooded her mind. Suddenly, she found herself standing in a dimly lit room, the air thick with the scent of damp wood and decay. It felt familiar, wrong, yet hauntingly close to a dream she could not remember. In the center, a television flickered to life, unveiling images of children smiling, laughing, their voices bright with life. But then, a sudden flick twist, the images shifted, becoming dark and distorted, screams drowning out their laughs. "No," Sarah screamed, clutching her head as agony tore through her. "This can't be what happened." From the corner of the room, a figure materialized, cloaked in shadows. It stepped closer, the darkness slipping from its form, revealing a pale face twisted in despair. "You're too late," it whispered, a voice echoing the hopeless cries of all the lost souls. They've already become part of the darkness. As the weight of those words crashed over her, a deafening roar erupted in the room, the very air vibrating. The shadows lunged forward, swirling around her like a violent storm. To find Tom, you must first face her. Megan's image morphed into view, a child's face, eyes wide with fear, and in that instant, Sarah knew. She had to confront the reality that lay buried in that dark history. The truth would not come without sacrifice. Would she uncover Megan's fate, or would the shadows silence her forever? Just as the claws of darkness made their final approach, Sarah braced for the unknown. The knife raised and heart pounding, she yelled, "I will not be afraid." As the shadows closed in, a flicker of light caught her eye, an illuminated path, beckoning her to follow. But would stepping into that light bring salvation or curse her further? The choice hung, heavy and foreboding. The moment Sarah stepped toward the light, the shadows recoiled as if burned. Heart racing, she felt the warmth envelop her, contrasting sharply with the chill that still gripped her from the darkness. The room began to fade around her, the oppressive weight lifting. Yet she wasn't free, she was in another realm. The light led her through a corridor lined with old pictures, faces blurred, eyes hollow, and watching, always watching. She stumbled past them, the echoes of laughter fading, replaced by hushed whispers that clawed at her mind. "Sarah, come back," a soft voice chimed, familiar yet foreign. It seeped into her consciousness like ink in water, distorting everything it touched. "Megan," she called out, desperate for any sign. "I'm here. I'm coming for you." But the response was silence, heavy and suffocating. The walls pressed closer, as if trying to swallow her whole, while the shadows tightened their grip in the corners, lurking with malevolent glee, feeding off her fear. Ahead, a door appeared, its handle glittering uncharacteristically against the gloom. She felt a surge of hope. Was this the way to Megan? Her hand trembled as she reached for the handle, cold metal sending a shiver through her. With a deep breath, she twisted it open, the creak echoing like a mournful wail across the space. Inside, the room was cold and empty, save for a single chair in the center. A child's drawing lay scattered across the floor, colors vibrant against the dust, stick figures holding hands under a sun that seemed too bright for the despair surrounding them. It was a memory, a glimpse of happiness that felt cruelly misplaced. "Sarah," the voice came again, softer this time. Megan's image flickered in and out like a faulty bulb, eyes wide with urgency. "Help me." But as Sarah took a step forward, the shadows slithered back into the room like angry serpents, coiling around the chair, the drawing, and the space in between. "Do you wish to save her?" The shadows whispered, their chorus rising and falling like a wave. "Or shall we reveal the cost? Tell me, what do I have to do?" Her voice trembled but held a defiance, a need that pushed her through the fear. "Embrace the darkness," they hissed, tendrils inching closer, brushing against her skin with their icy fingers. "Only then will you see the truth." "No," she shouted, shaking her head furiously. "I want to become like you. I'll find another way." Their laughter erupted, filling the room with a cacophony of disdain. "Foolish girl, you think you can escape your fate? You want the truth, but you're too scared to face it. Only by surrendering can you unveil what lies beneath." The shadows surged, surrounding her, each whisper a jab at her sanity. Memories flashed before her eyes, her childhood, laughter, but then quick flashes of fear, loss, and darkness clawing at the edges. She squeezed her eyes shut against the tide, swallowing the rising panic. No, not like this. The knife felt heavy in her hand, but she knew it was a tool forged in desperation. She loomed, trembling, wrestling with the idea that she might have to use it. "Embrace us," the shadows howled, thrumming with power. "Only in surrender will she live." In that agonizing moment, Sarah felt a pulse of light flicker in her heart, a voice rising above the chaos. Megan, I will find you. With renewed resolve, she plunged the knife into the ground, creating a flash of brilliance that ripped through the shadows, scattering them in shrieks like a flock of crows startled into flight. Breathless, she stood at the heart of the room, the whispers fading into mere echoes. But there, amidst the fading darkness, she saw the silhouette of a girl standing in the corner, waiting, trembling. Megan? Sarah stepped forward, hope blending with dread. Is that you? But just as she reached out, the room began to crumble, walls shivering and cracking, and the light dimmed. The truth is a heavier burden than you can bear, the shadows growled, as everything dissolved into swirling chaos. Sarah, you must choose. Megan's voice sliced through the tempest, urging her forward with an intensity that set her heart on fire. Could Sarah handle the truth, or was she walking straight into a trap of horror she couldn't escape? As the last tendrils of light winked out, an alarm bell sounded in her mind. What awaited her beyond the darkness? With a violent shudder, reality twisted back into focus. Sarah found herself back in a familiar space, though nothing felt right. The room pulsed with a sinister energy, shadows darting everywhere, as if alive. She strained her eyes against the dim light, scanning for Megan. Desperation clawed at her throat. Megan, where are you? The shadows loomed and hung in the air, swirling ominously. A chill crept up her spine as a familiar voice whispered her name, softer this time. Sarah, it echoed like a distant melody, but every note was laced with dread. Megan, please answer me. She felt her way across the crumbling walls, the plaster crumbling under her fingers like burnt paper. With each desperate step, shadows flickered, circling her like vultures. Sarah, we need to hurry. Megan's voice was a haunting symphony, just out of reach, growing fainter. Hold on, I'm coming. Sarah pushed forward, heart racing. She broke into a run, fear driving her, her feet pounding against the floor like a frantic heartbeat. She rounded a corner, leading herself into another corridor lined with doors, each one heavy with dread. As she reached the first door, she hesitated. Dark tendrils curled from its edges, gripping her ankles like a hungry beast. This isn't the way, she murmured, retreating. The shadows attached themselves to her like angry leeches, their cold touch sending shivers coursing through her veins. Suddenly, a door at the end of the hallway swung open, revealing a blinding light. Hope surged within her as she sprinted towards it, ready to escape the clutches of darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. Sarah. Megan's voice rang clearer, a beacon of desperation guiding her more easily than before. Just as she leaped into the light, the ground beneath her transformed. She landed in a room flooded with whispers. It was an echo chamber, a place where thoughts manifested as twisted reflections. Visions darted through her mind, Megan laughing, playing in the park, but suddenly shrouded in shadows, darkness bleeding into her image, corruption clawing at her bubbly essence. No. Panic bubbled up inside Sarah. Her hands trembled, and she stumbled backwards, eyes wide. What was this place? Was Megan trapped within each of these nightmares? Sarah, help me, I'm in here. Megan's voice whimpered, close yet incomprehensibly far. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs, hopelessness colliding with determination. Where? Where are you? But she was answered by hollow laughter, dark and taunting, filling the air like a storm gathering strength. You cannot help what you cannot see, Sarah. The shadows sneered, weaving around her like smoke. What do you want from me? She shouted, rage igniting her fear, remembering the knife she had used. The darkness cackled and writhed, swallowing her voice, the sound echoing through the chamber like a death knell. Only your total surrender, they hissed. No. It burst from her in a defiant chant. Gathering strength, she cut through the shadows. She had faced it once, using light against their darkness, and she would do it again. But amid her rise, something shifted. From within the chaos, a chilling truth revealed itself. A figure began to emerge, its features indistinct but growing clearer by the second. You think you can save her? The shadowy figure grinned, unsettling in its familiarity. Let me see her. Let me see Megan. Sarah screamed, trembling as realization flooded her system. Very well. But know this. The truth always comes at a cost. The air thickened around her as the shadows shrieked, howling in victorious fury. As the figure dissolved, Sarah braced for what was to follow. heart pounding in her ears. What price would she have to pay for the truth? The swirling shadows receded slightly, revealing an expanse teetering at the edge of reality. Sarah's heart raced, pounding a rhythm of fear and hope in her chest. Was this it? Was she so close to uncovering the truth, or merely walking deeper into a trap set by those wicked whispers? "Megan," she called, voice echoing in the empty void. The distance felt infinite, her courage waning as shadows coiled around her feet, threatening to pull her down. This was her chance, but at what cost? Suddenly, the darkness fractured, and a light emerged. It pulsed softly, beckoning her. With determination coursing through her veins, Sarah charged toward it, shrugging free of the fingers gripping her ankles. The warmth of the light enveloped her, soothing her fraying nerves, and she felt a surge of power flowing through her, a connection to everything she held dear. The echoes of laughter grew stronger, merging into a haunting symphony. "Sarah, hurry!" Megan's sweet voice rang clearer than before, slicing through the cacophony, drawing nearer to the light. Details sharpened into focus. She found herself in a room that resembled the playground they had played on as children, vibrant colors painted across a backdrop of innocence. Yet, right at the center loomed a cold presence, a shadowy figure, twisting and writhing like smoke. And behind it stood Megan, transparent and trembling, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I'm here," Sarah gasped, arms outstretched, ready to reach for her. But as she took a step, the shadows surged forward, wrapping around her in a tight embrace, constricting her movement. "What do you want from us?" she cried, fear flooding her system. Only to reveal the truth, the figure hissed, twisting its form into a grotesque portrayal of familiar faces, neighbors lost to madness, remnants of Maplewood's past. "You seek to save her, but do you understand the cost?" "The cost?" Sarah echoed, gut tight with dread. "I'll pay any price to save her." Laughter erupted all around her, piercing like needles. "Everything has a price, dear girl. Are you willing to face the legacy of your own town? The darkness that has fostered these shadows for generations?" In that moment, memories flooded Sarah's mind, the laughter fading from nights spent in Maplewood, that vibrant laughter before they buried secrets deep. "No more hiding," she shouted, feeling that familiar fire of her resolve igniting within her. "I will break the cycle." With newfound strength, she thrust the knife towards the shadows. It shattered through the dark mass like a beacon of light, illuminating the room in a brilliant white. The shadows writhed, shrieking in fury as Sarah steadied herself against the onslaught. "Megan!" she screamed. "I'm coming." She raced to her friend, who stood at the heart of the chaos. "Hold on." With every ounce of determination, she reached for her, fighting against the tendrils desperately wrapping around them both. "Let go," Megan cried, tears streaming down her face, relief and fear mixing. "You can't fight them, please. Don't sacrifice yourself." But even as the shadows screamed and clawed at her, Sarah refused to yield. "I won't lose you again." In that fierce instant, something shifted, the shadows recoiled, and the air crackled with energy. The connection forged in the depths of their childhood memories, love, laughter, friendship ignited the room, filling it with brilliance. As if in response, the figure split apart, the shadows retreating into the recesses, wailing like a wounded animal. "Embrace the light," Sarah urged, holding on tight as she felt the fabric of reality shifting around them. Together, light engulfed them both, a warmth like a hug from a long-lost friend. A heartbeat surged through the ground beneath their feet, and slowly, the darkness drew back, revealing a familiar sunny day, the sun shining over Maplewood, as innocent and bright as before. When the light faded, Sarah found herself standing at the edge of her porch, Megan by her side, looking just as she had in childhood. "We did it," Megan breathed, voice trembling with disbelief. "But how?" "They said it would come at a cost," Sarah murmured, glancing around. "Maplewood, it has a history, a dark past that binds us. We need to uncover every secret, every loss, and learn from it." Megan's eyes softened. "And we'll do it together. This time, we won't back down." They turned back to the heart of Maplewood, once more ready to face the whispers of the past, knowing they held the power to reshape their fate. Shadows loomed, But the bond they reforged was a light that could never be extinguished as they walked towards their neighbors, who were just starting to emerge from the shadows of their own burdens. A new dawn broke on the horizon, and the laughter of children once more rang true against the air. They understood now the price of truth was the courage to face it and the promise of hope that lay ahead. Together, so now. As we close this chapter, remember the strength found in unity. If you enjoyed this journey, now is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let everyone in on these terrifying truths. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories. I want to hear from every single one of you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters. It keeps stories like this alive.